Hey, it's your boy back again on the Q&A podcast on Inside the Birds platform. It's your boy Jason Avant. I'm here with my main man Quintin Mikell. Quintin, say what's up to the people.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Happy to be back again. Another week, another installment. Excited to talk some birds and whatever else pops up in our weekly conversation. So excited, man.
Yeah, we're excited about it as we are every weekend. We want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you submit your questions to insidethebirds@gmail.com. And we are always thankful to Jeff and to Adam and Hunter and everyone that's responsible for the Q&A podcast. Remember, check us out on Inside the Birds platform on YouTube, also Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, also Amazon Music. We are constantly bringing fresh content to you guys, and we always have fun. We explain the game in a different way, and we share stories and make this thing fun. So we're going to kick this off because the Eagles have been in a training camp now, 11 plus days.
Hold on, before we get to that, because I keep forgetting to bring this question up, right? So I got this question on Instagram. This is from Javon 2024 on Instagram. So he has asked me this question. I think we should answer this and probably put this to bed for hopefully once and for all, because it's a weird question. But he said, "Hey, great show." He said, "I wanted to ask: is it possible for a college team like Ohio State or Alabama to beat an NFL team like Detroit or the Bengals?"
I don't even get into those questions. No, it's not possible.
Thank you.
It's just not possible. The guys have learned so much, the angles, the speed of the game, how smart the player is just totally different on a totally different level. And then in the college program, you're going to have 70 to 80% of the players there or more, 90% of the players that are not pro players, right? So you got guys that are out there playing that will never make the pros because they don't have the requisite skills and talent to be in the pros. And in the pro game, everyone is weeded out, and everyone that's there is supposed to be there. So you can't compare the two. There are so many different angles I can take this, but I just don't think Ohio State can beat the worst team in the National Football League. It just does not happen like that. Up front, those dudes are going to destroy college players. It's just they're too quick, they're too fast, they get off the ball, they read keys, the coaching is better. It's so many different things, there's so many different factors. Guys in college are just learning how to play football, and their athletic ability is doing it all for them. When you add the brain aspect of an NFL player and how much timing he has and how many reps he's seen, it's a totally different game.
There it is.
Yeah.
Finally, let's put that to bed. All right. We get that. It's crazy. We get that question quite a lot. And so I was like, we have to address it this one time. Hopefully that'll be it. So all right, now we can get into it.
We can get back to it. So we're going to again say thank you to all the fans, and we're going to start our podcast off this week because the Eagles have been in training camp, 11 days in counting. They've been in training camp. And we've seen a lot of ups and downs from Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been good at times. The open practice, he showed some very, very good throws, but he has some inconsistent throws. The offense remains inconsistent after several practices. Is this to be expected, or does it further show the uncertainty of the quarterback position? Where's the offense headed into the year? Where are we headed with this quarterback? And that's a question for you.
Yeah, the way I see it, I mean, I kind of feel like this was to be expected. He's still in my eyes, he's still a rookie. He really played a couple games, and while he does show some bright flashes and some really good things, he's still got a lot to learn. Not to mention he's got a whole new coaching staff, a whole new way of learning, a whole new system. Injuries at the receiver position. I mean, there's a lot that's going on. So I still think that we need to, at least get into the first couple preseason games before we start to start to tear him down. I think he's a guy that's going to take a little bit of time to develop. There's going to be some stuff that he's got to get better at. And we've said it multiple times on the show. It's going to be a work in progress. And I know, a lot of Eagle fans don't want to hear that. They want to win now, but sometimes it's better to take the long road and to continue to develop a player of his stature, a player of his ability, and see where the chips fall and then go from there. So I still think there's no rush. I still feel like this was to be expected, and I'm positive that he's gonna spin out of it, and once we get everybody back healthy, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, when you begin to, I agree with you. So you got to be very careful when you're dealing with a young player. Just like we were careful when we dealt with Carson when he had his ups and downs, right? See, we didn't really get to be on Carson until year 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
And the thing with Jalen is that you're going to go through ups and downs in practice. Like you said, there's a new offensive staff. The beginning of last year, we saw him as a wildcat quarterback. He was in the game as a decoy. He was in the game as a runner. He didn't really have many opportunities to throw the ball. So the last few games was his first opportunities playing quarterback. So you're going to go through some ups and downs. And I would rather have the ups and downs in practice rather than in the games. And even in preseason games, if there's some ups and downs, there's a different mentality when it comes to games. And we're hoping that a gamer shows up in those moments, in those times, right? That you may have some inconsistent play, but can you will the team to a victory at the end of the game? Can you learn from your mistakes through the process of the game? And there are some times where I've seen, him have some bonehead plays, meaning that there's pressure in his face. He throws the ball in the middle of the field. You can't do those types of things, right? So those are the ones that kind of concern you and worry you. And hopefully we can get those out of his system and coached out of his system, because if there's pressure and you can't just throw the ball in the middle of the field, you got to think of a better decision than that. So I know people were talking about those things a little bit, but the game aspect, that's what I'm looking for. Not a preseason game, maybe the third preseason game or the second preseason game in this case, because we're going to have 3 this year. And maybe, the games. I want to get into the games and see who that person is, because he'll have more time with the offensive staff. And I think he's a gamer, which matters more than practice. Practice? We're talking about practice. We're looking for a gamer, though.
Yeah, man. Don't worry about no practice.
So there's this is a transition, and a lot of people say it's a rebuilding year. It's definitely a transition, and the transition is similar from, remember when Donovan, left the team, went to Washington, and the starter was Kevin Kolb. And a lot of people, compared this situation to that, wondering what it felt like in 2010 when Kevin Kolb was the quarterback for the whole preseason and taking over for McNabb. Could you tell me at that time that he wasn't the guy? Was there concern after a certain number of practices that he was going to struggle?
Well, going back to that time, we had such a strong locker room, such a strong, camaraderie with each other. We knew there were going to be some bumps in the road. We knew that, he was a young quarterback, and, he was going to have some tough times. And it was more, I wouldn't say circle the wagons type of situation, but it was more of a, hey, let's defense, let's put it on us. Like, let's go out there and we be the reason that, we win games. We don't want to put it all on Kevin. And so, going back to that time, we knew there was going to be some bumps in the road, like I said, and we knew that we had to step up and we had to be the difference makers for that team. And, it didn't quite work out for Kevin. I had a lot of respect for Kevin. And, he could throw a nice ball, and, just the quarterback position is such a weird position where, a guy can have everything, and it's just one little thing that's off, and it just kind of sets you back to the point where, you're out of the league in a couple of years. And so
Yeah.
it was really tough to see because we were all rooting for him. He was a great guy. He was a great teammate, and
Great teammate.
we wanted to support him. We wanted to see him be successful, but it just didn't work out. But back then we kind of knew him. We just say, hey, let's be the reason. Let's be the reason that he succeeds. And I know, I don't know. I can't say I know for sure, but I had the same feeling that the same thing happened with the receiving core, the running back core. Mm-hmm. They surrounded him and tried to uplift him and make sure that they weren't the reason why he failed. So
yeah, so I agree with that. When Kevin became the starter, everyone rallied around him. We knew that he can throw the football. That's one thing Kevin Kolb can do. And he can throw it. If he had time in the pocket and there wasn't much pressure, the ball was going to be delivered in a good spot where you can catch and run and so on and so forth. To me, it was more of an anointing as a starter rather than him earning the position. Yeah. Because at that same time we had, Michael Vick at the quarterback position, and it was like, hey, Kevin Kolb's the next guy. So Kevin, but the year before, Donovan got hurt and Kevin played pretty well. We still lost the games, but he played pretty well. He had good protection and the offensive line balled, and he can throw, and it was right in his wheelhouse. If Kevin had an offensive line that was protecting and guys weren't getting to him, he's gonna deliver the football and to be accurate. Yeah. The problem that Kevin had was when people were in his face. Yeah. And when there's pressure, like most people, like that's the hardest thing about playing quarterback. Does your character change and does your game change when there's pressure near you? 90% of the NFL quarterbacks change, and they're different players. There's only a few that are used to pressure that do well in it. And when you think of the few, you think of Aaron Rodgers, you think of Russell Wilson, you think of those two guys in particular against the pressure. And you think of Brady because Brady usually is going to get the ball out no matter what. If there's a guy in his face, he knows where his outlets are, right? So those guys don't really change. But most quarterbacks are worse versus the blitz. They're worse versus pressure. They're worse versus guys in your face. And Kevin had that problem. I'll tell you a story. I remember having like one of our first open practices. We weren't doing open practices like that back then. But we had one of our open practices at the stadium. So we had to go from Lehigh, I believe, to the stadium for an open practice. And I remember Kevin, telling us, hey man, make me look good tonight. This is my first, audition in front of, and it was like bizarre because no player thinks like that. Like, I don't think like that. I'm not like, even if it's in my mind, I'm never going to say it out of my lips because I don't want anybody to think that I'm scared. Right. So that was the first thing. He's like, hey man, you gotta make that play, man. Cause this is my first audition in front of the fans. I'm like, man, you are thinking about way too much. Like, if you're seeing all of that, you can't be good at what you're doing. Like, if you're thinking about the fans in the stands and impressing them for today, it's the wrong thing. Like, as an athlete and as a quarterback, as a football player, you see a little so you can see a lot. You focus on one snap, you focus on one throw, you focus on one drop back, you focus on one thing, and you do that consistently over practice, and you'll put together a practice because you're not worried about the fans and the Gatorade and the boos or the coaching. You're just trying to focus on the little things so you can put together a good practice. And I thought that at that moment in time, if that was his mentality, there's no way he's going to be able to survive in this city.
Oh my God. I wonder what did you say? Can you remember what you said like that? I don't even know what I would say.
It was a weird deal. I don't remember what I said, but I remember him saying it because I went up and made a few plays. He's like, man, thanks for making and it was like he kept saying it, and it was just a very awkward time because to me the crowd was too much in his brain. And if that can affect you for an open practice, what's it going to be like if they start booing you if you get hit or if you throw a few incompletions? Like, it felt like to me that his focus was in the wrong spot. Yeah.
Shame, man.
So
That's tough. Yeah.
yeah, isn't that tough? That was a crazy thing. But he was a
Yeah.
great teammate. When he had his feet set, he was a great. He threw the ball really well. How much should Jalen Hurts play in the preseason opener against the Steelers? Should he play a lot? If he didn't play versus Pittsburgh, is that a mistake? If he doesn't play versus Pittsburgh, is that a mistake?
It's a tough defense, but I think he needs to
Especially
play.
Devin Bush being back. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
That's a tough defense to go out there against, and no matter what, preseason or no, it's only 2 games, so they're gonna be dialed up, and they're gonna be, they got to practice some of their stuff. So, I suspect that, if I'm the head coach, I got to have him out there for at least
A
a
quarter.
quarter and a half to 2 quarters at least, just to get him in the rhythm and the flow. Possibly seeing a couple blitzes. I don't think he needs to play the whole game. I do think he needs to be out there for longer than one drive, just because it's only 2 preseason games, and then it's go time. So that's yeah, and you got to hit the ground running.
Yeah, so for a young quarterback in this situation where more football is only advantageous, only beneficial to him, you have to play him over a quarter. And I would be grateful if they can play him 2 quarters so he can get an idea of what the NFL is. Even if it's the starters for the Steelers are out after 2 or 3 series, I would love to see him continue to play out there so he can get more games and more reps out on the field. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's the preseason, it's this and that. You only get a few preseason games, and they're not going to play that 3rd game. So you have to treat this as in the old days, the 2nd preseason game, right? The 2nd, then the 3rd was the audition, and then the 4th was the rest. Here it's only 3, so the 1st should be 2nd quarter, halftime, whatever it may be. 2nd preseason game is going to be 3 quarters, and then the last one you rest. So that's the only way you can handle this. And for a young quarterback, only football can help him. Him learning a new offense, him being able to pick up the blitzes, him being able to recognize the mic in this new system, him being able to call the plays and regurgitate them, remember where the checkdowns are, it's only beneficial for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
More play, the better. Yes, that's what I believe. It needs to be. Are you concerned about the wide receiver position with Devontae Smith out for a while, right? He's out for a while with that MCL. John Hightower, he's week to week with a growing, and I don't know what that means. Whenever I hear growing for a receiver, that can mean a litany of things. It could be just your regular growing, or it can be a core muscle or sports hernia, what they used to call it. So we don't know about that. Jalen Reagor has been out the starting of camp. He was limited because he didn't pass the conditioning test. So are you concerned about the wide receivers and the continuity between the quarterback and the receivers?
Oh man, absolutely. And also, Jalen, he's dealing with a loss. I think he lost his best friend recently, and that definitely weighed on him too. So, condolences to him and his family. But that definitely worries me. We've talked about it. I mean, especially Jalen and Devontae, those are 2 guys that we're saying that we're counting on to, make an impact this year in some way for this team. Now we know they're rookies, but the Eagles are leaning on those guys to help this young quarterback and to help this young team and this young offense and new head coach really get something going. So I definitely am concerned. Injuries happen, especially for rookies, but just time away, time off the field is never a good thing when you're a young player. And so I'm definitely concerned. And hopefully the thing that's you have to be careful with too is rushing them back, because you rush them back and then you can end up losing them for the entire year. So it's a tough thing, and I definitely am concerned because they already were slight players, not the biggest guys, and so you just get a little concerned when you see that kind of stuff happening. What about you? What do you think?
When you add everyone that's been out. When you think about Brandon Brooks, that hadn't basically practiced all camp. When you think about Devontae Smith, John Hightower, Jalen Reagor missing some time. You think about Isaac missing time. You think about like the guards for the Eagles have been out for a while. So when you think of all of the injuries that are happening through training camp and before the season even starts, it's very, very hard to get that continuity early because you don't have the guys that are going to be there, you know, early to get that chemistry. So I think that definitely is a concern. Devontae Smith is the biggest concern because he has to play. He's going to be a projected starter. So you want to get as many reps as you can. I understand that he's dealing with an MCL strain, so you have to take that serious. And he has to be day to day. You just hope that they can get some reps out of him in the preseason because no reps in the preseason and just starting off week one is a tough task because you get a chance to see the game at a different level early in the preseason. You can kind of make your adjustments. Him making adjustments on the fly is going to be a little bit tougher. So I think it's an area of concern. The good thing is that Quez Watkins has been balling. The good thing, he's been balling. He's been playing well. Again, all of this stuff is in shorts, ladies and gentlemen. It's in training camp. And everyone has a great, training camp here or there. It's about what you can do on Sunday. But he's definitely taking the steps in the right direction. So we'll see how they go with him and Jalen Reagor. Hopefully Travis Fulgham can pick it up. He hadn't had the greatest camp right now. And he's in the rotation in the mix. So we got to get him playing better. But I'm looking forward to it. But I'm definitely concerned about the receivers.
Yeah, this feels like year 3 in a row that it just seems like all the key positions are just getting banged up and injured.
Yeah, Mailata's out. Not Mailata, but Dillard's out now.
Dillard's out too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, for the life of me, I can't figure out what it is with this team. Like, why do the Eagles have such bad luck when it comes to, especially in key positions, receiver position, offensive line position, just happens. Seems like it's happening year after year. And it's like, can you get a break? What's going on, man?
No one knows. No one knows. We just, but every team deals with injuries.
Very true.
It's all about being there when it counts and matters the most. It's just that these times matter the most when you have young players, right? So I'm not worried about Brandon Brooks so much. I'm not worried about Isaac so much, or Dillard has lost the starting position anyway to Jordan Mailata. But you worry about Devontae Smith because there's not much history or adapting to the NFL. You worry about Hightower because if he's the 5th or the 6th receiver or what have you, he still doesn't have much experience, right? So Reagor, same way. So when these guys are out, it affects the team differently. Yeah. All right. So on the flip side, are you surprised that Jordan Howard appears to be the clear number 2 running back over Kerryon Johnson, over Boston Scott, over Gainwell? Are you surprised?
I'm not that surprised. I like his game. I've always liked his game. Now he's not a blazer. He's not going to, outrun everybody, but he's a guy that you don't want to tackle, 10, 20 times a game. He will wear you down in the game. So, judging from as much as the coaching staff, offensive staff ran the ball last year, I can see that happening. Now they had, the Colts had 2 different type of running backs and
but they had
much more. Mm-hmm. What's that?
They had they had Jonathan Taylor last year, right?
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor from
Wisconsin.
Jonathan Taylor, and I forget the other guy.
He's a 4-4 version of Jordan Howard.
Yeah. So I'm actually liking it. He's a guy who can catch the ball out the backfield. I think he can block pretty well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised. I'm actually excited to see him play this year. He's definitely a guy that can come in and give you some good run and start pounding that defense, wear him down a little bit. So
the thing about this is that Jordan is not an old player. He has had success in this league. He's a between the tackles runner, no nonsense, straightforward. That's the way we do it. That's the way we roll. And I'll always remember the game that he had versus the Green Bay Packers a couple years ago. And with that being said, I think that we kind of forget and we look at the shiny new players like the new cars and so forth, but there's some old reliable players. This game will always be running through people, beating people to the spot and making people move out of the spot. And he does that really well. Like he knows where he's going. He lowers his pads. He's physical, and he rarely misses a cut. And and he's not a, like you said, he's not a blazer, but you don't have to be a running back to be effective. And you're going to see a lot of this man, and Deuce loved him. and that says a bunch to me. Yeah. And with the type of running back Deuce was and the type of coach that he is, Deuce loves Jordan Howard. He just loves him. And he's been dealing with injuries for the last couple of years. And if he's healthy, he'll return to form. One of those, I remember him in Indiana giving Michigan the blues. And I'm like, this dude, right? When does Indiana have a running back? Right. So, but he has some good seasons with the Bears. And so hopefully he can continue that here. And we'll see how it goes. We like I said, earlier in covering this team, the only way this team is going to make the playoffs is if this team is in the top 5, top 7 in rushing. That's the only way that we're going to make the playoffs. It's not going to be through airing it out. I know that there's talks of, Mr. Lurie liking the air the football out and why you're not throwing it and all that type of stuff. The only way that this Eagles team is going to make the playoffs is if they're in the top 5 to 10 teams in rushing.
Yeah.
That's it. Like there is no other way that this is going to happen. The receivers are too young to just air it out on the best players, and they don't have a bunch of veterans in front of them to teach them how to get open. All that stuff. You got a younger quarterback that is still learning offense. The only way it is just one way, and that way of running a football is going to make you a tougher defense. It's going to build you for the playoffs. It's going to build you up for the playoffs. And I think that's the solution. So we should care more about what the running backs are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No. Let's go pound it out. I'm good with that. Let the defense get a rest. To get the defense fresh. They come back in ready to go. Let's do it. Old school, man. Let's go.
When was the last time that the Eagles was top 10 in rushing? It's in the Michael Vick time, right? When he was able to move around. Donovan in his early years, right? Not in the later years, but in the early years when he can scramble on the third down or he can roll it out and get some hay. And then you had your Westbrook, you had your Deuce, you had your Brian Mitchell, you had your Curl Buckhalter, you had a litany of running backs that could get in the mix. You know what I mean? So, and the teams were good when running the ball was a substantial part of the game. Passing first it's tough. To ask your quarterback to throw it 40 times a game is tough because he's going to put the ball in harm's way 40 times a game if he's throwing it that many times, at least 7. And if you put it in harm's way, a DB is probably going to make 1 out of 7, 2 out of 7 plays, which is a pick. So it's tough. It's tough living. And if they're good, they're going to make 3 or 4, and it's tough.
Yeah.
Run the ball. Run the ball for this team for sure. Topic 2, preseason game. Tell me about your first preseason game. Tell me about what you thought about the preseason as a young player. and then we'll discuss it later as an older player.
Man, I can't even remember. I can't. That was so long ago. I can't even remember my first preseason game. But I will tell you, I can remember the feeling of. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I remember the feeling of the first preseason game,
Yeah.
and it was nothing but nerve. I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared. And I wouldn't say scared, but I was nervous and I was excited.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's weird because you have all this practice, all this practice, all this practice, and then we've played games our entire life, right? But it felt like when you get to that first preseason game, it just felt like you're just starting football all over again, like from the beginning.
Yeah,
and
you forget stuff. It's weird.
The bright light, like you mind blanks on you with certain plays, and but one of the things that I remember and I always relied on was just don't think about anything. Think about before the play, before the snap, just think about what you have to do on that play and just execute it, that play, and then worry about the next play and the next play.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, you start stringing together stuff, and then that's how you continue to develop, and that's how you continue to get better and not let yourself lose focus of the game.
Yeah.
One of the most memorable games I had was my second year, and it was weird because the first preseason game we played the Patriots, and I got injured in that game, and I had a ACL. It was an ACL sprain, which was like a rare type of sprain back then, and I just remember rehabbing, and working my tail off, and then you get to the last people stuff. So the last preseason game, it's cut time after that. So I didn't play in the 2 games prior to that, and then so we get to that last game, and I just knew for sure if I didn't play in this game, I was going to get cut. Like that was it. And so I had them. They strapped me up. I had had the homemade like little brace thing on.
So you're like, I'm playing no matter what.
I'm playing no matter what. If I go, I'm going out swinging. Swinging. They're gonna cut me. So I ended up playing a game and just flying around. Like I probably was making mistakes left and right, but I was just flying around and hitting everything that moved. And they didn't cut me, so I must have worked. But that's one of the most memorable preseason games because I really felt like my back was against the wall and I had no other shot but just to go out there and put it all on God and see how it was going to work out. So for me, that's the most memorable game. Was my second year making it to that last preseason game against the Jets and flying around. So how about you, man? Do you remember your first one?
Yeah, my first preseason game was a Hall of Fame game. So I thought, so my first preseason game, we played the Raiders in a Hall of Fame game, and actually had Randy Moss. So I remember, and it had Nnamdi Asomugha as well, right? So and the starters didn't play much, so I played the entire game. So I played from the second quarter, maybe the end of the first quarter, second quarter, whatever it was, into the fourth quarter, right? So I played the entire game, and I remember like us going up against their starters for a series, and Nnamdi being out there, and me doing a good move on him and getting open. Of course, I didn't get the ball, and I remember talking junk to him, like, "Dude, you can't stick me." Like, and then the next play, like I see Randy Moss on the sideline, like laughing and joking, with Nnamdi, like they laughing at me because I'm like, "You can't stick me." In the next route, I slip and fall. And then it was like, who's this goofball? So I break him down one route, and then the next route, you just getting so juiced up, so excited. I'm running a regular slant, and I slip on the slant. I'm like, dude, you suck.
That's when they had did they have the old school turf still at the Hall of Fame?
They could have had turf out there. They could have had regular turf. They could have had it could have been regular turf because there was a few states, like it was only maybe I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But I remember that being the first game, and I remember me being out there laboring through an injury because I had cartilage damage from being ran in the ground as a rookie. But I remember being out there my first preseason game, not being able to move, but I was still making plays and stuff, and it was fun. And I remember crying before the game, like as the game we were going out there. I remember I just couldn't stop the tears from coming down. And I remember Jaquay Parker looking at me like, "You are a young boy, you all right?" He's like, because he's a veteran, and I'm like, dude, I remember like playing this game, when nobody else is out there, by myself in the dark running routes, and it's that first time, like I'm ready to go, I'm ready to hit somebody, right? So I remember that, and then I remember like my I remember playing the Steelers. I think it was that same year we were playing the Steelers in the preseason. Later in that preseason, maybe the third game or whatever it was, third or fourth game, I can't remember. But I remember, no, it was the third game. We were playing the Steelers, and I remember catch, 25-yard seam. We're in the red zone, like I did both, like all three. Catch, 25-yard seam in the red zone, and like I'm tired, like tired, right? I'm tired because we started on the 20. Catch. We're in the red zone, like the 15 or whatever it was. Like it was like three explosive plays, like real fast. And I'm tired, and I'm giving myself a sub, like, because in college that's what you do. You give yourself a sub. Sometimes if you make a big play or two, you give yourself a sub. I'm not realizing that this is not the standard for Coach Reed. So I catch my 25-yard seam pass. I don't know if it was AJ Feely, whoever it was that threw it to me. I catch my pass, boom. I tap myself, like, boom. I'm walking towards the sideline. He didn't say anything. He looking smooth at me. And I get about 5 yards away from him. You motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. Who told you to come back? Don't you ever come. Blah, 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 blah. Boom. By the time he got done cursing, I'm halfway out of the film. Like, all right, this is not acceptable for Coach Reed. Like, you don't come out of the game, right? So I'm like, never again will I ever try to take myself out of the game. You just, if you're tired, you just suck it up and you keep going. And that's how Coach Reed was. Like, if you were a player that was in the game, you bet not ever, like, especially for a receiver, ever sub. I don't remember Reggie Brown ever getting a break in practice, right? Or any of the receivers. Nobody wanted them to take your reps, right? So every receiver, if they had 15 plays, they were playing the entire 15, whether they scored a touchdown on play 2 or not. They were coming back. And so I didn't realize that. And I remember, bleep, blah, you little motherfucker, blah, 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 Michigan, I don't know what the blah, blah. I was like, yo, chill. I'll go back in. Don't worry about it. Next couple plays, I'm dogging it.
They try to set you up, man. And so a lot of people don't realize too, like, if like for everyone that's watching this preseason game, all right, you need to pay attention to the last. If you watch the whole game, pay attention to the last couple quarters. Because people may not realize guys that are still playing on defense or still playing on special teams, like, you get no break. And I'll never forget, that's one thing it just popped up in my mind. I remember being dead tired too, because once you get in, they ain't no, like you said, ain't no coming out.
You just don't come out. You on kickoff return, you on kickoff, you on punt, you on punt return. You doing it all the entire game, and especially if you're not a starter, and you go out there and you're expected to make the play, and that's how it was. And then I remember that same game. I remember Greg Lewis coming up to me. It's like, man, you crazy. I was like, why? He's like, dude, how do you run full speed into the safety every time? Like, I was killing this safety. I don't know who it was, but I was destroying this dude. Like, I was destroying. Like when a play would be over, he would be on the ground. It was like 3-4 plays in a row. Like, he's like, you are crazy. Like, I found, like, you found like a weak one. You found it's like, I'm about to kill him. And that's how
you just look at him. It's you.
It's you, yeah. You don't supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here, you don't. Right? So we're gonna make sure that everybody know right now that you don't belong here.
Oh man, that's too funny, man.
Yeah,
That's all.
So I remember that for the preseason.
Preseason games are fun, man.
Like as a veteran, what was the preseason like? After you got to year 7, year 8, what was the preseason, the first couple of preseason games like?
Man, after that first drive, everybody started looking to the sideline like, all right, can we be done now? All right, can we? Because all you want to do, you just want to get that one series in. Don't get
The
injured.
3 and
Don't get
out.
hurt. Get the 3 and out. And we celebrating. We watching. We enjoying the rest of the game. Because the other part too is usually after the day after the game, you have like either an off day or you have like a light walk through practice, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 2 days in training camp where you get 2 days off, man. That's gold in training camp.
Facts. See, I wasn't fortunate much to be able to get many of those off, but when I got to about year 6, year 7, my first 5 years, man, I was playing all the preseason games. And then about year 6 or 7, I started getting like, coach, like you just hope. Like this is what you hope as an offensive player. You hope that you go down and you score a touchdown. If you go down and score a touchdown, you don't have to play no more. And look, and it sounds funny because we love to play football in the preseason. You like, man, listen, we've been running around the training camp every day for the past 20 days. The last thing I want to be out here is playing a meaningless football game. And that's the way you think as a veteran. You're like, dude, what's the soonest we can come out? What do we have to do? Coach, what do we have to do to get out of this game? And the worst thing that you can have in the preseason game is somebody get injured. You be like, dang, man, what's wrong with you? Like, why you getting injured? Like, dude, you got to eat drink some more milk or something. Like, you come up with everything. You like, dude, you suck. Like, because if somebody get injured, like, you be sitting on the sideline chilling, and you look down the line, Avant, you got to go back in. Like, I'm like, no, Deshaun,
You already done put your helmet. You put your helmet back with the equipment manager. You took your gloves off. You got to stand like this with your pads on. You ready to chill.
I remember getting called back into the Jets game. The Jets game is the last game of the season. I felt like the biggest scrub ever. I'm like, dude, like I've been at this thing for 5-6 years. I'd improved myself already. I'm playing in the fourth quarter in the preseason game against the Jets. I'm going backwards. Something is wrong.
That's wrong. I can't believe I did you like that.
Well, there was nobody else. It was like we had a lot of injuries. There's nobody else. Coach Reed was like, dude, don't just like get out of the way. We just trying to, he was trying to make me feel better. Like, we're not gonna throw you the ball. We just need you in here for these couple plays, Don't get hurt.
Just don't get hurt. Shoot. Those days.
Yeah. Let's transition. All right. So defensive line. Now, there's been praises for Josh Sweat and the way he's performed in training camp. There's also been, a little bit lighter praise for Derek Barnett. We don't necessarily know if because Josh Sweat's been getting all the glory and raising the bar that Derek Barnett is like, yo, I need to play a little bit better myself. Do you think this Josh Sweat hype is hype, or do you think that he's about to turn the corner?
Judging from now, you've had a much closer look at him than I have in terms of being there and practice with him and watching him in meetings. And so I'll defer to you on that. But judging from what you've told me and the things that I know of him, I think it's not hype. I think he's turned the corner, and I think as long as he's staying healthy, I see him being a force with this team. And it could be it's funny, man. It could be a simple situation as a new coaching staff finding ways to get playmakers on the field and putting them in the best position for them and what they do. And that's the beauty of, having the beauty of having a young coaching staff that's open to new things, that's creative with new ideas. And this is what I've been hoping for a few years now, some innovation, some just, you got the tools, you've got all these very good players, especially on the D line. Let's figure out another way to get them more productive, and it
Yeah.
seems like that's working right now.
Yeah. So for you guys that don't know, Sweaty, which is his nickname, Josh Sweat, gets off the ball faster than I've ever seen a defensive end. That's how fast he gets off the ball. And he beats DBs consistently. I mean, 8 out of 10 times in get off the ball drills for special teams. Like, you get off the ball and you race the 5 yards. He wins that 8 out of 10 times against anybody. We talking about Slay. We talking about line. We talking about running backs. We talking about defensive backs. We talking about receivers. He wins that 8 out of 10 times. And so his get off is dynamic. And so I can see him in a new system with new coaching staff and them unleashing the talent that he has, and then him being hungry as well, knowing that he has some talent because he was flashing last year at times. Again, he has very bad knees and his knees are not getting better. So you just hope that they figure out a way to be able to manage his ailments, manage his knees to be able to perform at a high level. And so that's like Sweaty is going to be a product of how good the training staff is. If they can figure out a way to be able to manage his knees, because he's had he has like stiffness in his knees. It's like degenerative almost, right? So there is some things like he walks with a natural limp because of his knees. So if they can figure out a way to manage it, figure out a way to do some blood transfusions where, whatever it is that they're doing, figure out ways to be able to manage his knees. I think he's going to be a dynamic player, and hopefully he can come up with a solution, that they come up with something that can get him, healthy consistently.
So you don't think it's something that can be, rep managed? Like if they cut his reps back, you don't think it's quite that easy?
I think for a younger player, rep management is never the best solution because he's young, he's raw, he's learning how to play, use his hands, be consistent. And the more reps you have for a younger player is good. Load management is for Ryan Kerrigan. Load management is for, Brandon Graham and so on and so forth, where we know that he can be productive if he isn't, having the most reps. For younger players, you need the reps. So you need to come up with some type of solution, medically, training staff wise, whatever it may be, in order to get him to be consistent and out there for multiple downs. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what warm-up program that is. I know T.O. had a lot of ailments, right? T.O. had a permanent sports hernia, and he was able to play multiple years because he had a system of it. Like he never got it fixed with the bands and all that type of stuff. He was strengthening muscles around that. And I think something needs to be created like they did with T.O. in order to help Sweaty get through, his knee problems.
Okay.
So that's where I am. That's where I am with that. But I don't think it's hype. I think it's a young player that can and will be one of the better pass rushers in the league. He is definitely a 10+ sack potential candidate.
Okay.
He is.
He is.
He's that talented. Like I said, the only problem is his knees, and hopefully we can get a solution for that. Let's transition. Linebackers. Let's do this real quick. Linebackers. Davion Taylor's been out with a calf. Jacoby Stevens has been out with a hamstring. Alex Singleton just got back from COVID. We got Eric Wilson. We got TJ Edwards. We got Alex that just came back. Is this position a major concern? And then it's tough for me because Davion is the most talented out of them all. He's the most inexperienced as well because he didn't play much linebacker in college, right? So he needs this camp, and he's out with a calf. So I don't necessarily know if he's going to be in that lineup, and if he's going to be another special teams year for him. So that's kind of discouraging. I was hoping that he can turn the corner and become the athletic, reach your potential type of player. But he's been out for a while, and he started dealing with calf injuries. Those things can linger for a while.
Yeah.
They just can't. So are you concerned with the linebacker position?
Yeah, very. I mean, we were concerned
Before
even, coming out of the draft and not really addressing it and not addressing it in free agency really. And so definitely a huge concern. So it's center of the defense, and, judging from what we're guessing this defense is going to look like, it's going to be an important position. And it's really, and I agree with you 100%. It's disheartening because we're hearing and seeing all these good things about Davion, and, it seems like right when he was ready to break the starting linebacker position, right when he getting ready to earn the starting linebacker position, he gets hurt, and now he's out. And so, and the rule, man, you can't
make team in training room.
You can't, I hate to sound like that, but you can't make the club in the tub. So, it's just frustrating I'm sure for him, and hopefully he's battling to get back. But it definitely is a huge concern for me. There's no depth. There's hardly any depth. There's hardly a lot of experience. I mean, I guess there's a couple of guys, Singleton, and then Wilson that came over from Minnesota, but we need more playmakers at that position. And
Singleton is fast, still limited with power. TJ Edwards is powerful, limited with speed. Eric Wilson is a savvy veteran, still limited as an athlete.
Yes.
So when you consider all of this, everyone has some type of weakness, and everybody has a weakness, but you want a free-flowing guy that you don't have to take out. And I just one day I would love to see the Eagles have a player that can play each down at the linebacker position, where you don't have to create a sub package for them, where you don't have to make sure that the matchup is perfect, where you don't have to take them out on third down, whatever that be. Like, so like I said, we're playing the position with situational players that are decent players, but they're limited. And so when you get them in a situation where there's an audible or a substitution change and they catch you in something, it's going to be very, very hard for TJ Edwards to cover a running back. It's going to be very, very hard for Alex Smith to take on an offensive line and get off of that block. Like, it's going to be very, very hard for Eric Wilson to be able to cover somebody in space and or come down. So there's a bunch of, problems there, and you wish you had, a guy that could be that. And Davion Taylor was that player that we were hoping for, and we don't know how bad this calf injury is going to be. So that's disheartening. And yes, the linebacker position has the potential to be disastrous for us. And hopefully it isn't. Hopefully the defensive line can solve all of it. If the defensive line is balling and they're not playing this wide nine, rush the quarterback and stop the running back on the way to the quarterback type of philosophy and mindset, and if they're in the two gap responsibility at times and shooting gaps at times, it'll leave the lane. The window for a tackle will be smaller, right? There won't be gaping holes and running up. So hopefully that can help, and the D line can change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for the record, the Eagles will never draft a linebacker or bring in a linebacker that's a 3-down backer. I don't think that'll ever happen. no matter how desperate we are to have it happen, I don't think it's ever going to happen.
We had them last year. And not this past year, But the year before, you had Patrick Queen, who's been balling.
Okay.
Right. So you had an opportunity. He's smaller, but he still can play every play.
Fair, yeah.
So we had opportunities there, especially if you don't go get Justin, so you had opportunities there. So we'll see. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to discourage, we don't get that. All right, let's get
Positive
into
vibes.
positive vibes. Let's get into some of the questions, Q.
Okay.
David V, you often see football players portrayed as stupid sport jocks in movies and pop culture. But in hearing about everything that goes on into playing the game with all the plays, information you need to memorize, understanding different coverage, etc., it seems like you have to be quite intelligent. What do you think? Is it possible to play football at a high level if you're not intelligent? Have you guys played with any dumb football players?
So that's a weird question. There's different types of intelligence. I think there are some people that I've played with that probably couldn't process things that the way that I process them, or couldn't study tape or study things the way I studied them. But there's also guys that did things that I couldn't do as well. Like, for instance, Asante Samuel, we talked about it before, the way he was able to read stems, the way he was able to, keep his eyes on the quarterback and just know what type of route that the receiver's running based off just seeing a stem was amazing. And that's something that I had to learn from him. I never really used it because I wasn't a cornerback, but that's something that I never knew and I learned from him. So I think that everyone has intelligence in some way, shape, or form if you make it to that level, if you make it to the NFL. Now, there are some players that I wouldn't say they weren't intelligent, but what's the word? The way I would put it is they would need a little help getting lined up, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that's on offense, defense, secondary or not, maybe it's extra study time, maybe it's extra film time. Those are the guys, that have to work off the field to really remember and understand where they need to be. And so there are definitely guys that are more intelligent than others, but I think it's in some way, shape, or form, if you make it to that level and you stay at that level for longer than a couple of years, you definitely have intelligence. Just, not not at the same level.
I agree. So, like, there's always and this is funny because in every field and everything that you do, there are some people with I would say there's, like you said, there's different types of intelligence. There's some very smart people, but they're slow.
Yeah.
At times, right? So very, very smart people, but may not have common sense. Very, very smart people, but may not have wisdom, know when to speak, know how to speak, know when to do things, right? Yeah. So there's certain things. And then there's people that just have a natural feel for like a situation, people that are emotionally intelligent. They can read the room and know what to be, how to be, when to be, and so on and so forth. There's people with intelligence of like being spatially aware, right? So there's guys that may not be the smartest in the classroom, but you put him out on the field and he's not going to run past his zones. Like, why would I run over there in this open spot right here? And it takes some smart guys years to be able to figure out what that zone is, right? So it all depends. Like, so if we're just doing it the way we do school, and we say they're smart guys based on the criteria that we do in American culture in the classroom. Yeah, there's guys that are smarter than others, but that's not always football. Football is a natural field, and you can be a very, very smart player, but not be smart in the classroom, but you're smart on the football field. So it may take you a little while longer to learn the plays, but you still have a natural sense of ability once you get on the football field. And it's actually pretty smart. Yeah. It's guys that understand angles. Like, there are some dudes that are this big that are this big but know how to dip a shoulder at the right time to create a different angle. That's smart.
Yeah.
And some guys just don't. Like me, my big body, I can try to avoid guys and do stuff like, but me and Anquan Bolden, like I'm faster than Anquan Bolden. Let's get that straight. But me and Anquan Bolden are very, very similar in body type and style, but Anquan had a ability to shake people off that I didn't have. Like he would break so many tackles that to me it was smart. Some of the things that he would do, he would dip his shoulder at the right time. He knew when to jump when the guy was going low at his legs. He knew when to shoot his stiff arm. Like there's so many ways to me to be intelligent that are not just the standard basic classroom way that we do in America. So are there guys that need help? Like you said, yes. There are some guys that will come up to you and ask you what the play is a million times. And I don't think it's because they're slow. I think it's because they never had to take it seriously because they've been so talented. Yep. And usually those guys are just so talented that they're just like, I really don't need all of that. Like, because I've been blessed with, I've been doused with what the Almighty gave me from heaven, right? Yep. I've been doused with all of this, so I don't need all of that extra stuff that, Jason Avant doing all the technique and all the jug machines and all that stuff. I've literally had guys laugh at me for doing the jug machine. Like, man, really? And they had great hands, and you're like, each his own. So it is what it is. So, but yes, there's guys that are very, very intelligent in a classroom way, spatially aware, all of that. And then there's guys that are one of those things.
Yeah.
You need some level of intelligence, but maybe it may not be in a classroom, but guys help you out. So that's why I'm with that.
That was good.
All right, we got Q. We got two more questions. We're gonna close this up.
Okay.
Ben C. When a player joins one NFL team from another, how much effort does the next team exert to learn the old team's playbook? Is it an informal conversation or CIA level interrogation? Do they learn anything useful, or do playbooks change too much from year to year? Any anecdote you can offer?
Honestly, for me, I've never had the experience any of that. So I've never been brought into a room, but I have heard stories. Of we used to joke, call it debriefing. You bring in a guy from a rival team or a
that
team
happens all year.
Yeah, and you see him you might see him in the playoffs, you might not. So you get a little debriefing. You try to understand stuff, maybe get some signals or whatnot. But I don't know. I mean, I personally don't know how much it helps because. I mean, the playbooks, they're constantly changing. And a lot of people may not know is you roll the film over every four games. So like we talked about it before, you might, especially with the offense, we knew that you might see a game, you never go further back than 4 games because, you go further back than 4 games because whatever you see in those 4 games, you're probably not going to see again, especially any kind of trick play, any kind of explosive play, any kind of weird motion or anything like that. Within the next 4 games, you're not going to see it again. So teams catch up. They know everybody know who's brought in who signed who did what, and they adjust on the fly. So I don't think it's as big a deal as people think. And quite frankly, a lot of times guys that get cut, they probably don't really know that much about what's going on anyway. So I don't think it's as big a deal. What do you think?
I think. Like I've been interrogated, right? So when I went to Carolina, they put me in a room and hey, what is the offensive philosophy? And such and such, and you tell them, anything that's going to help your team win, right? So, but you can't put too much stake in it. The reason you can't put too much stake in it is because if you're a smart player and they know that the team gonna change it.
Yeah.
Right? There are some guys that may not be able to because they've been with the team a short amount of time, that to be able to know what the team is doing, they may not care. But Ryan Kerrigan is going to know what the Redskins' philosophy is. So therefore, the Redskins are going to have a different game plan based on the level that Ryan Kerrigan, the level of information that Ryan Kerrigan knows. Right, because he's been there so long and he's been in that system a whole year and he's seen a lot of football. He understands the culture of the team, so on and so forth. Even though Rivera just got there last year, he's been around football a lot. He's going to know what the philosophy of the defense is, and maybe you change it because of a player like that. Maybe. Very rarely does that player usually happen like that. And then some people put so much stock in it that they're changing defenses, they're changing offenses, and before you, or they're looking at signals. And before, look, a signal is fool's gold because I can go to the sideline and say, "Hey, the next time we run go route, we're going to make it a slant signal. So we're going to do this for the next time we run go route. I'm going to signal everybody slant." And
Boom.
you destroyed everything, right? So the guy out there is like, you like dragon, lion, and the guy like slant, and we telling them slant, up, touchdown, go route, right? So you can't put too much stock in that, and that actually happens. Hey, the next time we run go route, we're gonna, whatever it is, we run the stops. Yeah. That happens, right? And so you can't put too much stocks and signals and stuff like that unless it's in game. If it's in game and you get a beat on the signal, that signal is going to stay the same for the rest of the game unless the coach does something to, like I just said, to change it for that particular time. If he recognizes you have a beat on it, right? If he recognizes that, usually it takes a DB a little while to get a beat on it, but once they do, like, there's ways, people don't know this. This is funny. There's ways the coach, the TV copy will let you know what words you say on television. So if the quarterback is telling an audible and it's a run or it's a pass, we check. I was one of the guys that would go check all the words that was on national television and write it down for the offensive coordinator. Hey, this was being said on national television, so we got to change this audible. This was being said. They heard this, they heard this, they heard that, right? So, there's a whole process. There's so many people and so many things that you need to know about the National Football League. Guys that are taking it's nuts. Like, we check everything, and so it's funny.
That's funny you say that because my second year in St. Louis, when I was with the Rams, we got a hold of a copy of the Bears. We were playing the Bears that year, and we got all their audibles from the TV copy. So we go into the game, and what's his name, Cutler, he goes to audible, and we checking, and he I've never seen a quarterback look so like bewildered in his life. He was like looking around. He went to get under the snap, and then stood up again, and he went timeout.
Yeah, timeout. We know
so
this.
He's like, they know something. So, but yeah, that's crazy, man. And I didn't. This was like a year before I was out of the league. So no, I've been in the league for a long. I never knew anything about that. It took me going to the Rams to learn about that.
Yeah, so you get that TV copy because you're going to be able to hear. You're going to be able to hear audibles and checks, and you got to know as an offense or defense what you put on that TV copy. If you put in a lot of words in that TV copy, and it's like, hey, they got this one, they got that one, they got this one, they got that one, you got to change it.
Okay.
All right,
sneaky over there.
Yeah. So yes, it can like some teams, it can be an interrogation. Most of the times you don't get much out of it because the player that's getting cut a lot of time hadn't been there that long. But if you get a guy that's been in the program for a long, long time, it can be beneficial to you. But you can't put so much stock in it that you don't trust your game plan. You can't. Michael M., my question for both of you is about players' relationships with the media. I know you guys are now great friends with the likes of Jeff and Adam, but how did the players in the locker room react to the media presence during your playing days? Where they seem as were they an annoyance or an asset that you could use to get your message out to the public? Were you aware of the mows and the team passing information out? Do you have any great stories or interactions with the media persons during your playing time?
All right. So first of all, I personally don't know if we had any moles when I was there. I mean, I'm sure there were some, I didn't really pay attention to it. I would say the main reaction that we had as an entire locker room when the media came in was, "Hey, here they come. Let's go.
Let's go in the other room.
Let's go in the other room. Let's go hide out because they're gonna come in here and they're gonna try to divide. Or they're gonna try to get somebody to say something stupid or whatever." So, a guy named Derek Boyko, he was the head of our media. Public relations. Mm-hmm. And, he was very good with us, with the media, especially guys like myself and you that like to talk to the media. I always like to talk to the media. It was just fun for me. But he did a good job, number one, of making sure if there was any situation that we need to be aware of, potential things that could get you caught up on. He did a good job. So if you listen to him and you talk to him, he had a relationship with Derek Boyko. He was able to kind of keep you from putting your foot in your mouth, so to speak. And so, I always had a good relationship with the media, but I think the general consensus was just to stay away from them for the most part.
Exactly. So the media would come in the locker room, everybody would scatter, and I refused to allow them to take my space, right? So that ended up with me answering more questions than most people. And I, have my creative way of answering questions and not giving out information because they're looking for division. They're looking for story. They're looking for anything. So you try to answer it in the most plain way with a great attitude without giving out information and so on and so forth. Yes, but there are times where, because we're at that stage where, Twitter was just coming out and Instagram and everything was starting to become social media. So you had guys in the locker room and here's a funny story. I remember Daryl Tapp wanted to beat up Les Bowen. Right? Right? And Les Bowen didn't have an idea that Daryl Tapp was going to smash him in practice in the locker room.
Right? Man, how can you get Daryl Tapp mad? What?
Because Les Bowen is going to tweet while he's in the locker room, "Man, I'm tired of covering this slap dick team," and so on and so forth. And Derek and Daryl Tapp happened to be checking Twitter, and he's like, "This mother, we right in the locker room, like, you know what I mean?" And I'm like, "Tapp, like, don't beat him up right here. Wait till we get in the parking lot."
Wait till you run to the sideline and just give him a look.
Give him in there. That'd be perfect. Hey, Don, throw a goal ball right toward Bo. Boom. Man, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You good? You good?
Man, that's too funny, man. You gotta be a wild one to make him mad.
Yeah, so you were mad. So stuff like that would happen, but there was not many moles, that we knew of. The only time the mole stuff happened was when guys would like tape parts of practice and put it on television when we're running a trick play and stuff like that. I'm like, like, you guys just have no, Yeah. So that other than that, media, they had their job to do, and it was our job to not allow them information that would hurt us as a team or divide us as a team. So you're constantly playing this back and forth of, they have their job to do. It's our job to answer questions, but we're going to answer them in the most generic way so that we're not giving them information. So that's how that works. And usually the most honest people are the guys they're going to go after, because usually the most honest people are going to put their foot in the mouth. And sometimes that was me. Every now and again, they would get me.
Man, one of the funny, that just reminded me too, one of the funny stories. So a lot of people, they may or may not know. So you kind of get a warning before the time that they're going to come in the locker room. But, you know, a lot of times you're getting out the shower, you got a towel on, you know, whatnot. So at a certain point, guys just stop caring. So, you know, when the media comes in, sometimes they'll have clothes on, sometimes they won't. But one of the funniest situations I've ever seen was I'm not going to say no names, but there was one guy I saw, and I've actually seen this on multiple occasions, but this one time I saw this giant, tall guy giving an interview butt naked. And the craziest part about it was that, like, the reporter had to do the interview. They stayed doing the interview. They stayed professional, kept their eyes up the whole time. And he just stood there like it was nobody's business, just everything out. I'm like, is he doing what and this is when I was a younger player. I'm like, man, is he doing what I think he's doing? Like, put something. He didn't care. He was just like, hey, y'all already in here? Shoot, let's do it.
Because they come in, they have no respect for, like, because they used to get, like, seeing guys in undershorts and stuff like that. So they'll actually do. You like, dude, can I put my clothes on? What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? And then you got the ladies in the locker room that's halfway peeking and halfway not. You like,
oh, they wasn't halfway peeking; they was all the way peeking.
You get all type of stuff going on, and then you have dudes that see somebody in the locker room and just like their towels just in there falling. It's funny stuff, man.
Oh man,
you're like, man,
can't say it too much.
This is crazy. Let me stop right there. That's it. All right, this show is over. Brought to you by the Locker Room Tales.
Oh man, good times.
Good times. Yes.
Some crazy stuff in the locker room.
Crazy stuff. Hey, this is the Q&A podcast on Inside the Birds platform, YouTube channel. Also, Amazon Music, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We come to you every week, so make sure that you're checking us out. This is Jason Avant signing off. We'll have more content next week. We'll be talking about the Eagles like we always do and how their season is going to take place. They have their first preseason game this week, so we'll be talking about that. So you guys have a great time, and we appreciate everything that you do. Continue to make our show popular. Make sure that you're following us on social media. Make sure that you are liking the YouTube content as well. So Q, you always have the last word. Say goodbye to the people before I give out too much information about the line.
As always, man, it's been a pleasure, Jay. Everyone continue to support us. We love you guys. And, keep sending those questions in. Hit us up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, man. It's been fun. Let's continue to keep this thing going, man.
InsideTheBirds@gmail.com. Submit your questions. InsideTheBirds@gmail.com. We're signing out. Jason Avant, Quintin Mikell. Shout out to Adam and Jeff and Hunter and everybody that's responsible for this show. Peace.